What is going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the Mike Roach Podcast, where I discuss everything sports, culture, politics, and beyond. And folks, please remember, if you like the podcast, make sure you share it with your friends and family, okay? Don't hog it all for yourself. There's plenty enough for Mike Roach to go around, okay? Now, on the agenda today, a couple things that I want to discuss with you here, okay? Nico Harrison, that's number one on the agenda. 24/7 security because of death threats. Come on, man. Come on. This is crazy. Trump bans transgender women in women's sports, men in women's sports overall, period. That's a no-no. That's gone. Okay. Canada and immigration. We got to discuss that as well. And then I'm going to jump back to the NBA and talk a little bit about this All-Star weekend coming up, specifically about the teams that have been picked and just the kind of situation they have going on there and how Sunday night is going to look. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about Nico Harrison and this trade with AD and Luka Doncic. Okay. Now, unfortunately, we have already seen that Anthony Davis on Saturday against the Houston Rockets goes down with an injury. Now, reports come out that he's going to be missing a couple of weeks. Okay. I'm sure fans are absolutely furious. They were furious before that. But damn, Anthony Davis looked really good in the first half. I was watching that game. He had like 24 or 25 points with like 11 rebounds. He was going crazy in that game. And the Mavericks looked really good. And then a no contact injury and he goes down. That was tough to watch. I hated to see that because I'm rooting for the Mavericks. I think with AD in that lineup, they have a good team. They have a good team, but damn it, he's got to be able to stay on the floor. Okay. That's a problem. Now, this whole thing with this trade is still strange. It's still strange. It's still being talked about everywhere. It's still being talked about everywhere because people still can't believe that this trade actually went down and happened. I still can't believe this is real life and that this happened. Seriously. I still can't believe it. And I mean, damn, it's how the Lakers can just get lucky like this over and over and over is beyond me. It's very fishy. It's strange, the way this trade went down. But I guess the real reason of why I'm speaking about this overall is because there was reports about Nico Harrison getting death threat. I have the video. Let me just put it on for you, okay? Because let me find it here. It's unbelievable what's happening. It is unbelievable what's happening. I mean, I know people take their sports seriously, but damn, I mean, check this out for a second, okay? Let me show you guys here.
Howdy, Malika. Listen, this is a heartbroken fan base, and there have been some very unfortunate developments regarding that anger, that angst. Nico Harrison has been subjected to death threats. There have been racial epithets included in some of those. Certainly, security is going to be beefed up. There will be protests outside the arena, or at least those are planned. Security will absolutely be beefed up. Nico Harrison is not going to be in his normal seat in the stands. They just don't. There's no reason to subject him to that kind of a security risk. So that has been definitely an unfortunate part of this whole storyline. Obviously, the fans' anger, hey, they have every right to feel like they got a generational superstar ripped away from them, but clearly lines have been crossed.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is what is happening over a trade. And before anybody goes crazy on Nico Harrison, I need people to understand one thing here. A trade of this magnitude does not happen without a sign off from the owners. This happens with a sign off from the owners. The last time I checked, Nico Harrison still has to answer to a president and to an owner, okay? Or a governor, whatever the hell you want to call it. This is not because of Nico Harrison. This is because of them. Now, Mark Cuban is a minority owner now in the Dallas Mavericks. He ended up selling the team. You know what? Let me share the screen with you again. I got some more info here for you because, like I mentioned, this is extremely strange. Okay. Extremely strange. How they get lucky like this, the Lakers, I don't know. I really, really don't. But let's look at this. Miriam Adelson is who bought this team from Mark Cuban. Now, let's start with fact number one here. Okay. Let's go here. Miriam Adelson heads a casino empire that derives an extraordinary amount of money from Macau. Her late husband claimed to be the largest investor of any kind in the history of China. Like her deceased husband, Sheldon, Miriam is among the planet's biggest global political donors, especially to the Republican Party and Donald Trump. That's interesting. There's not a particular track record of Miriam being interested in NBA basketball, but her casino company approached Mark Cuban with a price that I guess he couldn't refuse, right? And so why the Adelsons were fascinated by the NBA is clear. You only have to look at their public statements to know that their goal is to construct a new building. Reportedly, they've bought not one, but two premium Dallas area locations. And I'll mention to you, okay, first of all, this is truehoop.com, and this is written by Henry Abbott a week ago. Now, the last thing I'll read to you here. Gambling is not yet legal in Dallas, but these people who have given a fantastic amount of money to politicians are betting that it will become legal. At that point, they will have the capacity and control to erect a giant building that will be a casino and a stadium where the Mavericks will be the anchor tenant. Very interesting here, folks. And so when you hear that, this wasn't necessarily about Luka Doncic specifically. This is about money. And from the reports that I've read, Miriam Adelson is worth over $30 billion, closer to $32 billion. And one thing that I can see clearly is that capitalists, especially when you're a billionaire, there are no amount of billions that are enough. For some reason, I don't have billions of dollars, nowhere close, by the way. But I do recognize billionaires like to make more and more billions. It never seems to be enough. So I can believe this. I can believe that they have a plan to make more money. And the money comes before winning for an NBA franchise. Now, I'm not exactly sure what their plan is. I do know Mark Cuban probably wasn't in on it. I know he probably wasn't in on it. He's a minority owner now. I believe about 27% or somewhere close to 30%. But the Adelson family runs the show at this point. She's the owner. Her son-in-law, I believe, from what I read, is the governor of the team. People in Dallas, I understand that you're mad at Nico Harrison. I do. He's the general manager. And if you're going to trade Luka Doncic, why not open it up to everybody? Why not open it up to the league? I can't answer those questions for you. Something is strange. Something is fishy here. And I'm sure there's going to be more coming out about this. But this isn't on Nico Harrison. It's the owner's fault. It's the owner's fault. Okay? He can't go through with this trade if they don't allow it. And since when do you know billionaires to take advice from people who are in positions who they believe to be lesser than them? And since when do you take advice from people who aren't going to be making you more money? They don't do that. That's not the position that Nico Harrison is in. This isn't his fault. I listen, I get it. I get it. And listen, there might be some things that come out in reports in regards to this situation that said Nico Harrison, it's his fault. He had the last call on this and all that kind of stuff. That's a load of BS. I'm telling you right now, that is a load of crock. I don't care what the reports say. I don't care what they say. The final say goes to those owners. This happened because of them. And if Nico Harrison didn't do what they told him to do, he would have been finding a new job. He would have been finding a new job because they would have just gotten somebody else to do it. You can believe that. Okay? I'm telling you. I am telling you.
This is completely BS. This is shame. Shame for the referees, shame for the league to allow this.
Take it easy, Darko. Take it easy. I feel you. I feel you, Darko. Take it easy, though. Okay? But I'm telling you, folks, something is fishy here. And I don't know what's going to happen or what the report is that's going to come out. This was a secret from everybody. We mentioned Anthony Davis didn't know. Doncic didn't know. LeBron. Nobody knew. Nobody knew. And so what happens in regards to this? I don't know, but we're going to find out. Okay, moving on. Trump bans men in women's sports. I said Trump bans men in women's sports. You know what? Before I even say anything or continue, let me play something for you from CBS News, okay? We'll start there, and then I'll give you my opinion after, okay? My laptop's about to die. Let me plug it in. All right, let's go here.
Now to another executive order from President Trump, this time banning transgender athletes from participating in women's sports. Trump defended the move at the White House yesterday.
Female athletes have been forced onto the front lines, and men claiming to be girls have stolen more than 3,500 victories. That's a lot. And invaded more than 11,000 competitions designed for women. But all of that ends today because with this executive order, the war on women's sports is over.
Let's bring in CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand at the White House for us this morning. Natalie, Trump says this applies to any school receiving federal funds. They must follow this order. I'm wondering what the consequences are if they don't.
Yeah, those who do not comply could jeopardize that federal funding, according to this new executive order. Now, a White House official did note that transgender female athletes could compete on co-ed or male teams. You may remember, Errol, this became a big issue on the campaign trail. The president talked about it a lot, spurred on by conservative parents groups. But already, in response to this new executive order, we are seeing pushback from advocacy groups and also some attorneys general. Connecticut's AG put out a statement calling the new EO mean-spirited and unlawful. In a statement, he goes on to say the U.S. Supreme Court made it clear that discrimination against transgender individuals is illegal under the federal law. He is signaling that he is prepared or moving forward to challenge this in court.
Can you help us also understand what's happening at this?
All right, folks. So as you just heard, President Trump signed an executive order banning transgender women in women's sports. And so it's a tricky topic. It's a tricky topic. And most people are not going to want to discuss a topic like this because they're just flat out afraid. I am not, ladies and gentlemen. I agree with this. And it's not that I have any type of hate or anything like that in regards to transgender. It's just that it's you're having a man playing women's sports, and there are biological differences, and it is not fair towards women, in my opinion. Now, you don't have to agree with me. I'm giving you my opinion. Okay. Bone density, muscle mass, cardiovascular capacity. Men and women are not the same. And do we really have to lie about that? We are not. Men are physically stronger, faster. That's why men should be being compared, and they're being compared to other men, playing against other men, the same way women are. Women compete against other women and are compared to other women. We don't cross in regards to our records. Like, we don't put men's records up against women and women's records up against men for a reason, because we are biologically different. Bodies are made differently. In science, folks, don't blame me here. Don't blame me. I'm just saying it's a dangerous thing to do, in my opinion, even from a physical standpoint. Can you, women against men? And there have been instances now in boxing, in MMA. This is not good. This is not good. And I just say that because I have to ask you, where does it end? Where does it end? What's next? What's next? Like, that's the thing, right? And that's what makes it so tricky. And to me, that's why you have to put your foot down in regards to this subject, kind of like what Trump did. Just ban it at this point, because where does it end? If a grown person, let's say 25 or 30-year-old, and I've used this example before, wants to identify as a child or a 10-year-old, should that be allowed next? Is that where we're headed? Because when you do things like this, an inch goes beyond a mile. I said an inch goes beyond a mile. And then when you have daughters who are competing with somebody who's bigger than them, stronger than them, taller than them, what are they supposed to think? Are they just supposed to be like, okay, well, I know it's a man. They identify as a woman. Yeah, I'm just going to go into this and get my ass kicked. But it's okay. But it's okay, because that's what we're just told we're supposed to accept now. And listen, I'm sympathetic towards it as well. I'm not really sure what the solution to be, unless this should be just ban it altogether and just stand on that. Maybe I'll just stand on that, period. But listen, there is co-ed, which I do agree with there. Nothing wrong with that. But it's just such a tricky topic. And to me, you just can't allow that. You can't allow it. It's dangerous, and it's not fair. And I mean, you look at the example with Leah Thomas, who was a swimmer. Leah Thomas just towering over the girls, big, broad shoulders, bigger than everybody. Now, before Leah Thomas transitioned over into women's swimming, when competing, was approximately 500th. How do you go from 500th in men's to first in the women's? Right to the top of the game. You don't see a problem with that? Really? Really, you don't see a problem with that? Come on, man. Come on, stop it. Listen. I agree with this one. I know people will disagree. It's just my opinion. It's just my opinion. Nothing against anybody transgender. There's no hate or ill will in regards to you in any shape or form. Not for me. Not for me. But I do agree with Trump on this.
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple to. You're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
Okay. All right, listen. That's just my thoughts there, and that's that. Okay. Moving on now, though. Moving on. Canada and immigration. Canada and immigration. And the reason I'm bringing this up, because this has just been massive. This has been massive. This has been huge, as big as a story as I can imagine since Trump has been in office. But it's big in Canada too, right? The only reason I'm bringing it up is because, first of all, I'm going to show you a video where Justin Trudeau is talking about it. But with all the deportation talk, not just talk anymore, now this is happening in real time, folks. We're seeing what we've seen with Colombia, Mexico, and what I just saw with India about how they sent people back to India in shackles on military planes. I mean, this is this is crazy, crazy stuff we're seeing here, folks. This is crazy stuff. I'm hearing people being ripped out of their houses. They're getting them at work. They're showing up at schools. This is crazy. This is crazy, but here's the thing. And I don't want to sound insensitive, but it comes back to what I just stated before. And it's a big question that I have. If you continue to allow this, if you continue to allow it, where does it end? Where does it end? You have people who are lined up at the American border to come in illegally. So millions of people around the world who are lined up to go to America, Canada, UK, whatever country you're going to, have to do it the right way through the process, filling out the correct forms and waiting and being vetted like many of our family members did way back when they came to Canada, the US, whenever. They had to do it the right way. But now government should just lay back and let everybody come in because they're up there waiting. And listen, some people are coming from very terrible situations, and I am very sympathetic towards that. I am. There's some heinous things and places in this world, and people are looking to escape. I am not denying that fact whatsoever. But where does it end is the question. So when I see planes full of people who are getting sent back to the country that they came from, I'm like, damn, does it suck for them? Yes. But is it fair? I also believe it is. And I say that to say this. Canada has a crazy problem with immigration at this point. A massive influx of people have come into Canada, especially from India. Why so much from India? I have no idea. I'm just telling you that's what it is. I live here. I have eyes. Everybody has eyes for the most part. They see what's going on here. Why is it that way? I don't know. I'm just giving you the facts, okay? Let me share my screen with you on this video, okay?
Lower the number of new immigrants coming into Canada.
In an effort to relieve pressure on housing and social services, Canada is cutting back. In 2025, the target is 395,000 permanent residents, decreasing further in the 2 years following. And the government is also reducing the proportion of non-permanent residents following a surge in arrivals after the pandemic. The immigration minister admitted in the fall,
did we take too long to adjust? I think there's some responsibility there.
Though immigration lawyers warn that the system is so overloaded that the new plan hinges on more than 2 million people already in Canada leaving or changing status over the next 2 years.
We've got this huge influx of people on Canadian soil expecting permanent residence who won't get it. And so for that reason, the number one question is, how can I stay here?
Among those asking this question, international students who are facing an intake cap that's shrinking by 10%. Work permit requirements are also becoming stricter, including for temporary foreign workers. And Canada is lowering its admissions targets for refugees and protected persons. As a result of these changes, Canada's population is on track to decrease marginally both this year and next. But with U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's mass deportation pledge potentially leading to a surge in asylum claims, this country could face new pressures in the months ahead.
And I think we're going to have to, as Canadians, put pressure on all political parties to respond in a rational and fair-minded manner that's consistent with Canada's historical obligations.
With the Liberals trying to regain Canadians' confidence that
Listen, this is a serious problem in Canada, man. And a lot of this election is based on immigration. Like, I hope people understand that a lot of this is based on immigration and how pissed off Canadians are right now in the level of immigration that they have seen since the Liberals have been in power. I mean, in Ontario, 500,000 in 2023, 500,000 people came into Ontario. So then what was it in the country? You have 5 million people here whose permits are about to expire in 2025. 5 million people that you're expecting to just go back to where they came from. And then on top of that, you have another 2 million people approximately who we don't even know where the hell they are. I mean, we just saw reports with 50,000 students who came from India who were supposed to show up to school who never showed up. And so what are they doing? Working under the table. I mean, seriously, you can't make this stuff up at this point. And so we do have an issue in regards to immigration. When you look at, and here's the thing. It doesn't matter where people are coming from. You just have to be able to come into a country that can sustain it. And if it's not sustainable, then it's a problem, right? You got to not have enough housing. You got to have enough jobs. You got to make sure the government is not being defrauded, which they are being defrauded heavily, by the way. You got to make sure that you have a system in regards to the police, your laws, your judges. You got to make sure that you have a system that can combat the overwhelming amount of people that are in your province and in the country. If you can't do that, then guess what? Crime is going to be out of control, just like we're seeing now. Housing is going to be a serious problem, which we see now. The homelessness is a problem, which we see now. All of these things are a factor here, folks. All of these things are a factor. And what a lot of people don't like as well is that a lot of people who come here, they're not assimilating well into Canadian culture. And I think that's the biggest thing that people are kind of pissed off about. You have people who come here and immediately think that they own this place, which is Canada. And it's a tricky situation. And because of how it's being dealt with and how we're seeing it, it just seems to be more and more and more and more and more. And eventually when people see that and they recognize that you're the government that's in place, Justin Trudeau and the Liberals, they're just not going to have it anymore. And it doesn't matter who's going to come in after Justin Trudeau, because they will put somebody as the next Liberal leader before there's a federal election. I don't think the Liberals are going to win anytime soon. I don't give a damn if it's Mark Carney. I don't give a damn who it is. In my opinion, I think people have had enough and they just want change, period. They just want change. Enough is enough with the damn immigration right now. Can you get things under control first? And how are you going to get all these people to just leave? How? You show me another country I don't give a damn which country it is, by the way. Just show me another country, China, India, Russia. I don't care what country it is. Jamaica, England. I don't care. You show me another country where we, as Canadians, or I mentioned what's going on in the US, or US can just have millions of people lined up outside any one of those borders, and their government will just let you in without a problem. Show me, tell me which one. I guarantee you can't show up to those places and try that nonsense. Not like you can here. There would be a serious problem. There would be a serious problem. You can mark my words about that. But you want to be able to show up and do it here. That's got to stop. That has got to stop, folks. Okay? So in regards to that, we're going to see what happens over these next couple months. But trust me, it's happening in the US. And Canadian Customs, man, CBSA, they're rough too, bro. They're rough too. Listen, when it's time for action, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. It's going to be going down, okay? Now, last thing I want to speak about. The last thing that's going to be going down All-Star weekend is the All-Star game. Now, we know the All-Star game over the last, I don't know, I'll say 4 to 5 years have just been completely dreadful. Just awful. Terrible. Terrible.
What's happening over here during whole season? I've been calling it back. It's a complete crap.
It's been garbage. It's my least favorite part of all of All-Star weekend. Okay? Because we don't get to see the players compete. We don't. And that's the reason the format has been changed this year, because they're trying to find a way to get these players to compete. So now it's more of a tournament style, which I'm completely fine with. And I think it'll work. I'm hoping it'll work. But now you have 3 teams, and then you have a rookie sophomore team that's going to be in the fold as well, competing against these teams. There's going to be 4 teams, which I think is a good idea, because if you're an all-star, there is no way in hell that you are going to want to lose against the rookie sophomore team. You just don't want that. You don't want that at all, at any time, to lose to those youngins. That'll be a problem, and you don't want to see that. So you're going to be forced to compete, or else you're going to be facing the shame and embarrassment of losing to the youngins. Now, what they did even more was that Chuck, Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, and Kenny the Jet Smith were the ones who chose the teams. That's a bit weird, but I get it. It is a good idea, because look how they ended up choosing the teams. Let me share this with you. So this is interesting, right? This is interesting. Let me change the screen here. There we go. Look at the teams here. So Shaq's team is more of the older NBA veterans, right? And yeah, you still got some young guys on there too, but LeBron, Steph, Jason Tatum, Anthony Davis, who he's going to have to be replaced because he's injured and out for a few weeks. So we'll see who he gets replaced with. Damian Lillard, James Harden, Jaylen Brown, Kevin Durant. Okay. And when you look at now Team Kenny, you're looking at the younger guys now. Okay. Which is really cool as well. So now on the younger guys, you got Anthony Edwards, Jalen Brunson, Jalen Williams, Jaren Jackson, Garland, Mobley, Hero, Cunningham. Really cool as well. Okay. That's what you got. Now, this is like the international team here, which is really cool as well. All right. Jokic, Antetokounmpo, Wemby, Shea Gillis, Siakam, Segun. And you got Trae Young, who's on there now, who's replacing Antetokounmpo because he's injured as well. Karl Anthony Towns, who I believe one of his parents are Dominican, I believe. And Donovan Mitchell, one of his parents are from somewhere else as well. I can't remember, but that's like the international team. So you've separated them. And I think it will give you a bit more competition. And I think it's going to be fun, and so I agree with what we're seeing. I hope it turns out to be something good, fun, and, worth the watch, because it's been absolutely awful to see the greatest players, the best players you have in your game, just not compete. And it's the only time that we get to see them in this type of competition, right? And so I'm happy the NBA is doing something and always switching something. I will give credit to the NBA in regards to always trying to figure out a way to change something if it's not working. And I do like that about the NBA. So we'll see what this brings. And hopefully it brings some excitement back to Sunday night on All-Star Weekend. Okay. Folks, before I get out of here, did you watch the Super Bowl? I did. Congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles. Them absolutely big ass beat down on the Kansas City Chiefs. The halftime show. Kendrick Lamar and Drake. Boy, I mean, I was going to say something. Maybe I'll save it for the next podcast, but it was interesting. It's interesting. It's definitely blowing up on social media. I do have some thoughts about it, but I'll get it to you on the next show.